Hello and welcome to another pattern recognition video featuring simplification patterns. So I upped the difficulty a little bit from 1500 to 2000. But even if you're a lower rated player than that, you can try these because you know it will involve a simplification tactic, basically trading material down where you come out ahead. So I try to do 10 problems in these videos. You can go ahead and pause at any time if you need to think longer. So here we have the black pieces and white has just moved a rook over here. Which, is there a point to that move? Maybe to push this pawn. But with black to move, what should we do first? Well, we probably want to take a quick look at the material. I think everything's even. Nothing has been traded off yet. But, how can we simplify down into a winning continuation? All right, let's look at what we're attacking. Now, normally in any tactics and before any move, you want to look at checks, captures, and threats in that order. I say that often, but it's just that important. That's why I keep mentioning it. All right, we don't have any immediate checks. What about captures? The only thing we can capture is maybe some pawns. This one, of course we could capture that, but that doesn't look too great. The pawn would just recapture our bishop. So we have two knights lined up on this pawn. So that's making me think that one of those knight captures of that pawn is probably the way to go, because we have a battery lined up here, two pieces attacking that bishop, and only one defender, the queen. So, and if we move a knight up here and capture that pawn, then we're adding another attacker to that bishop. So as soon as we do that, they may capture our bishop here on E7, and then they'll be attacking our queen after our knight is attacking their queen. So for beginners, this might be difficult. Basically, with pattern recognition, depending on your level, if you're a beginner, you want to start with easy problems and work your way up and go over the problems more than once to help you remember the patterns that you'll see in these puzzles. So here, we have to decide what knight should take this pawn on E4. And then after we do that, because their queen will be under attack, they'll probably counterattack, either moving the queen to help attack our knight, but then we could just retreat and go up a pawn. So more likely they will counterattack by capturing our bishop and attacking our queen. So we could ignore that and just take their queen, attacking their rook, and their bishop. If it takes our queen, then it's not really attacking anything after that. All right, here we go. Pause if you want to look at this problem more. If not, I still have to decide what knight. Probably this knight here. So I'm going to go with this knight capture. All right, so they decide to take with their knight first, which I hadn't really planned on that move. So why don't we continue? Now we can take the queen. If they take our queen, we can take a rook. And once they retreat, we can even simplify down more by taking this knight, unless we have a better move, which I don't see. So we'll just take the knight. And after the dust is settled of all these trades, it looks like the king will probably take our knight. And after that, we will have bishop for bishop and a rook for bishop. So we'll be ahead by a pawn and rook versus a bishop, a 3-point advantage. All right, on to the next problem. Okay, knight has just captured here. How do we respond to that? How do we respond? I apologize. Something got in my shoe. All right. Let's see here. What do we have? The knight is just captured. We have 3 pieces attacking that knight. They have, what, only 2 defenders? But one issue is, if we take that knight and this bishop captures, there'll be a discovered attack on our queen. So you'll notice that as you go up in a higher level of chess, these patterns will be more complicated because you have to do more complicated calculations like we're doing here. So once again, it looks like we could capture maybe with the bishop. Then if they take, our knight could take, attacking their queen. So I think that would work. All right. So the one thing that might save us here, we have to capture this knight, it looks like, otherwise they can just capture this bishop for free. So we have to take the knight, but what piece should capture first? If we take with our knight first, and then they capture with the bishop, our queen is under attack. And we would have to worry about moving that. So why not take with the bishop first? So capture. If their knight captures, then what? All right, so this one's a little trickier. Knight or bishop captures first. If we just immediately capture with the knight, it doesn't look good if they capture and have a discovered attack on our queen. So we capture with the bishop first here. Now if their bishop takes, well then we can take, counterattacking their queen. If their knight takes, our queen can take. If they capture here, we can go after their queen. So I'm thinking that's what we have to do. Let's try it. That way the video doesn't drag out way too long. Okay, so there we go. Now we can just go ahead and take, and the queen would be able to retake. And, if the rook captures our pawn here, well then we have an extra knight, and they will have 2 extra pawns. So we'll be ahead in that. All right, on to the next problem. What do we have next? Bishop has just pressed forward, so bishop to d5 here, attacking our unprotected bishop, so probably have to deal with that. But before we do, let's take a quick look at the material. It looks like our opponent is ahead by 1 pawn, and then we each have 3 minor pieces and a rook. So we do have 2 attackers lined up on this knight, and they only have 1 defender. So we could really trade down material. Pause if you want to think this out before I give any clues away. So how about if we ignored that attack and we counterattacked over here? Because that knight is also defending the bishop here. So if we attacked, capturing the knight, they could either capture here and attack our rook, but if they do that, then we can capture their bishop and attack their rook. And it looks like we would come out ahead. But what if we take and first they decide to recapture? Well, then we could go ahead and capture here. All right, I think that works. Okay, well, that allows us to just take that pawn. Then the other pawn will be under attack. Do we have anything better? We have to deal with this pawn because it could threaten to promote if it gets by this pawn. So we probably just have to take, but... Or, yeah, we definitely have to take, so... There we go. Now the pawns are even and we're just ahead by an extra knight here. Okay, on to the next problem. We had a king running into the corner, but why? Why did that king even run there? I don't see any attacks against that king building up. All right, let's look at the material first and see who's ahead at the moment. We have 4, 5 pawns. Our opponent has 7, so they're ahead by 2 pawns. But we have 3 minor pieces. They only have 2, but they do have the bishop pair. All right, how can we simplify down here? Well, maybe we could move a knight, attack the queen. That queen is really limited on where it can go. It could step forward. All right, so a trickier one, and this is what you're going to run into as these puzzles become more difficult. You have to do a little bit of calculation, when you're looking at the different patterns as well. Okay. Probably we want to get this knight up, attacking the queen. Or do we have anything better? I don't know. Maybe we move the knight, attack the queen. The queen can step forward to h4 or g4. No, not even g4 because our other knight will be covering that. So maybe we have a chance to trap the queen, but this is a simplification video. So we're probably just looking for trades. So that normally means that we want to try and capture something, and I don't see anything at the moment that's capturable. All right, well, attack the queen. Queen would have to come forward. Okay, once the queen has to step forward to here, we could have a discovered attack on the queen once we move that knight that'll be here. So what can we do? We could try and capture. All right, well, knight moves up, attacking the queen. Queen will have to come forward. Now, the issue is if we move our queen or move our knight, they just capture our queen. But once our knight is here, where could we move it to? Or maybe we just try and attack their queen again, if that's even possible. All right. Well, and they'll also be targeting this. So once that queen moves forward, the queen will be attacking this along with the bishop. So knight jumps up, queen moves forward, attacking this pawn along with the bishop. But we're covered. We have bishop and queen covering that. So what if we move the knight? Where would be best to move it? Because if we move that knight and they just capture our queen, then what? All right, the video is dragging on pretty long here. I might have to just make a decision. Maybe there's something I'm missing, but it looks like, I don't know, I'm thinking we could attack the queen. Hopefully you're finding something better. Once that queen moves to the only square available without being captured, we do have a discovered attack, but I don't know if that does anything, because if we move the knight, they'll capture our queen, and if we recapture, then they can take our knight. All right, I'm going to try it. So that's what they wanted. Oh, I see. We take the pawn here. And then if they take our queen, we just drop back. And now we're attacking their bishop as well. And the only place the bishop can go is here. We can capture, and then our opponent will have doubled pawns once they recapture. All right, on to the next problem. That was rated 1750. A little more complicated. Maybe this one will be easier. What do we have? A knight has, or excuse me, king has stepped over to the side. We have a rook blocking the path of the king. The king stepped over because there was a mate threat here, because our king had the opposition covering all these squares in front of the king when the king was on F1. So now, what can we do? We do have the option of just capturing this pawn. Or maybe even better. Oh, wow. Okay. Hopefully you found the answer to this one. Take a look at it. Pause if you need to. If not, we just move our king here, capturing this pawn, threatening a mate, because now our king once again is covering all the squares in front of the king. And if we go here, it'll be a mate. and we're attacking the rook at the same time. So how can they defend against that? They could check us with the rook, but then we would just capture the rook, or the king has to move. So there we go. Oh, okay. Good move by our opponent. But I don't think it works. This is a these are some good patterns to know. Definitely study rook endgame, rook and pawn endgames like this. So that was a good move. The computer, or chess.com, whoever played this, wherever they get these problems from, now they have the option of blocking here once we check. If they do that, though, do we capture? So here we go. Check. They're forced to block. If we capture, king captures. We move over here, grabbing the opposition. Our opponent may try to move back to where it was originally, the king, giving us time to take their pawn. Or they might just move their pawn. But the problem is our king is in front of our passed pawn. So if they try and move here, we can move down here and we can get in front of our pawn. So this is going to have a lot of instructive value here. So check, we take. Now we can go after their pawn. We have to figure out, is that best? Taking the pawn, because we still need to be able to grab the opposition in the end game here and be able to march our pawn forward. So if we take the opposition, now we go here, we grab the opposition once again, take the opposition, and this will just push our opponent's king off to the side, and our king will be able to come forward and we'll be able to escort our pawn up. But that would be another video to show the rest of this. Okay. Should I do 5 more, or has this video gone on long enough? Because some of those problems were a little more complicated. I'll stop here for this video. Let me know in the future if you want me to continue to do 10 problems, or stopping at 5. Is that enough if they're longer problems like we had today? But either way, just make sure that you practice, try to solve some puzzles regularly, work on your pattern recognition. The more puzzles you solve, the more you'll see familiar components of chess, familiar tactics, and be able to use them in your own games. So feel free to leave a comment. As always, I enjoy hearing from viewers and subscribers. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and have a super chess day.